Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Open Dialogue. I'm so happy to be here again with another season, inshallah. And I welcome all of you, dear viewers, who are watching from wherever you're streaming. And inshallah, we are hoping to have another season of shows discussing different current social issues. While none of the opinions are necessarily represented by our channel, but we do have an invitation to have guest speakers to come in to share their thoughts and their views. And you as well, watching, are more than welcome to share in and enjoy the discussion by also contributing if you wanted to call in or if you wanted to ask a question to my guest or myself. Tonight, we have another guest with another topic I'd love to introduce to you. We first have our Syed. Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Assalamualaikum. Thank you for hosting.
It's lovely to see you, Syed. Thank you so much for being here. And of course, we have our guest for tonight, Brother Ali Azam. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Fahima. Thank you very much to you. And salams to Syed and salams to all your viewers. Thank you for this opportunity and thank you to the channel for this opportunity. I'm very grateful.
No, we're really
Walaikum.
happy to have you here today. We have an amazing topic that we're going to be discussing, and I think it's really interesting that we are going to be sharing this on this platform, and inshallah we'll have more opportunities to have further questions if anybody isn't aware of what we're about to discuss. We're talking about introducing character education in schools, and you, Brother Ali, are involved in this, and inshallah you're going to give us some more information. So would you like to start off by explaining what does this actually mean?
Sure. Character education is a process really of nurturing character through a specific methodology of helping young children at a very young age to be able to internalize and absorb the moral traits that we all have, dispositions of, like fairness, respect, generosity, compassion, gratitude. Uh, though we are familiar with these concepts, these values, they need to be nurtured and cultivated, and they need to start from a very young age when a child is impressionable, because these traits are inseparable from a moral autonomy or ability to think what to do in any given situations. So basically character education allows a child from a young age to be able to internalize these values. Also, these values become the source of that child's action. And what it really does is, I think what is most important is that human condition, by default, is such that we are all looking for our own personal interest. And of course, this drives us into kind of being triggered and motivated by our personal biases, personal interest, personal kind of, for some people greed, for some people power. So what character education does is allows a child from a young age to overcome these tendencies which we often fall succumb to. So basically it kind of enables a child to be able to use wisdom in all his or her action, and then that wisdom becomes a filter through which a child is making himself herself informed with what they ought to be doing, rather than following whim, rather than following subjective interest or caprice, or as what mostly society we see that we are all driven by our self-interest and in some form or another. And sometimes we are more, oftentimes we are not oblivious that we are seeking our own interest and using another human being as a means to our ends. So this education actually just allows a person to be morally autonomous and making morally right choices.
Thank you. That was a really, very good explanation, and I love the fact of how you explained what it means. I have lots of questions for you, but before I come back to you, I would like to hear what the Syed has to say. What is your sort of response to character education in school, Syed?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. According to Islamic teachings, actually there is a hadith as well, which says that the impressions in the early childhood are like carving in the stone that remain forever. So before going to school, the character that has been introduced by the parent and the family and the surroundings in which the child was conceived and brought up by the parent and then sent to the school has a great impact on the child's life. And of course, when the child goes to the nursery and the school that we select for the child, it also depends on the environment and the culture surrounding that school and early education stages that will create a big impact on the life of the child. That's why it is very important, very necessary to take care of minor issues in early stages of the development of the child according to Islam and prophets and great scholars, mothers and imams, mothers were very careful of that. For example, when they used to breastfeed their child, they would do wudu or say Bismillah and listen to the religious dialogue or verses of Holy Quran. So that used to create a great impact on the child's life. Yes, I mean, we cannot, even in the modern science, they have accepted that this is an undeniable fact that how in the environment that we raise our children has a great impact on their future. It can make them become a Hitler, or it can make them become a great scholar and philosopher and leader.
Absolutely. I love everything that you've said. Now let's get back to reality. And as you know, I've got you warmed up, and now my questions are really going to come at you, especially now to Brother Ali. We are living in the West. We are obviously doing what we can best to obviously educate our children in a Western education system. And you introducing this, do you find that coming from yourself, being of your faith, or as an organization which is not part of, the institutionalized at the moment, how apparent is this going to be where we can actually introduce these kinds of things? Because as we talk about morals and values today, there is a difference in interpretation and definition with what we believe and how we can actually put this into the UK schools, where it's actually going to be okay for parents, whether they come from faith or even no faith nowadays. So how would you sort of like put this forward so that it's actually going to be there for everyone, and it's not going to discriminate? Because at the end of the day, it's coming from a place where what we have, our faith and our values and our beliefs. How would you address this?
Sure. So uh, the focus that we have on character education is really to make a child appreciate human dignity and understand human dignity. So morality obviously can be defined in many different ways. A religious morality, we would obviously attribute it to our devotion to the religion and religious practices and religious norms and cultures that we all have. But I think morality that we're living in the West and living a fulfilled, a meaningful life is the one in which we are able to live with people of diverse thinking and being able to make a cohesive, existence with them. So I think the most uh, profound problems that we are facing in humanity right now, in all societies, is one of tribalism, is one of groupism. So, for example, racism, whether it's homophobia, whether it's Islamophobia, whether it's anti-Semitism, we see that these are really rife in society, and the very at the very back of what drives and motivates people to get into their groups and look at others, whether with despicably or as a less of a person, whether it's because of their social beliefs, whether because of their religious belief. I think morality, which is most important and imperative within the society, is to be able to live harmoniously with other human beings, even if they don't follow or even if they don't see what good is in your eyes. So I think that takes a stronger character to be able to live with others who may not agree with you, who may want to live differently, but because you're living in a society, you respect other people, you respect other people's uh, ways in which they want to live, as long as they are conforming to the rule of law, they are conforming to respecting your rights. Morality, I think, really demands at this stage it becomes very other regarding. So I think a distinction which I'm sure that it will take a lot more to elaborate how we can distinct our concept of morality to the morality that I am perhaps mentioning here. But I think being able to live with others and to give others their rights, it's very other regarding. Self-regarding morality is easier because it concerns us. But when it comes to giving other people rights, it becomes very difficult. And that's where our groupism, our subjective biases, our fallacies, what we believe, our cultural, perhaps superiority, our religious sense of superiority, these all become barriers to accept other human being. And I think in society at the moment, the most important thing is that people can live with each other, respecting the principles upon which they all share in humanity, rather than respecting their own membership. So if I'm a Muslim, I would by default be inclined to protect and defend anything that is Muslim against anything that is not Muslim. So an in-group preference over out-group. This is because of I am following my subjective biases, and I'm following perhaps my self-righteousness, which I believe that I'm right. So I think I need to transcend that. So when a child learns from a very young age, as well as Syed alluded to, that a child mind is like carving on a stone. From a young age, this aspect of respect of other people's dignity is very crucial at this point, with all the problems that we are facing. And of course, a huge problem is Islamophobia. At the back of it, some of it is it's a factor. So I suppose that it emancipates a child from following groupism, and enables a child to make more informed choices, moral choices, but one at the very core of which is human dignity. So they don't use other in any of their relationships, whether they are economic relationships, whether they're political relationships, whether they are relationships with spouses, with peers, with neighbors, with community. A person is always informed that where it's crossing the line of using somebody else, because we are living together, we are social beings, and of course we are going to depend and rely on each other. And this is how the fabric of society forms itself. But often we see the injustices in the world is because we are trying to perpetrate our interest when it is depriving someone else. So this sense of not depriving someone else right, and always being conscious about not using others as a means and one own self as a means, is the ability that can only come through character education. And Islam has made it extremely compulsory in its very basis, very core, that in the process of tehzeeb, tarbiyat, and talim, this is exactly the model of character education. When a child is being introduced to these values which we all hold inside, then the child is encouraged and given moral autonomy to be able to make right choices, and to to internalize these values so that these values become a second nature to the child. So Islam has already given that solution for the salvation of humanity, but sadly we have not gone on that. That trajectory never happened. And Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his famous mission statement, which he said that I was not sent for anything else but to perfect moral character. And we can see why there is a necessity, because unless you have a strength of character to respect other human beings, there will always be injustices in the society. So this is a
Yeah, no, I
generational
love the
change that can
concept.
come.
Absolutely. I love the concept. The idea is amazing. It's brilliant. Obviously, its stance is exactly what our faith is as well. I still have some more questions around this because at the end of the
Sure.
day, when it comes to our, for example, say it, our own communities, when it comes to, as Brother Ali was mentioning about the dignity, the respect of others, do you not find that maybe even in our own communities of sectarianism or, with the different cultures, the backgrounds, the different sort of segregations that we have within our own, that we're not necessarily even performing in our own communities for this to even be taken further into a secular education system? Or do you think there's still hope? What is your thoughts on that, Syed?
As brother was mentioning, I remembered another verse of Holy Quran in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when describing the mission of the prophets, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we appointed the prophets to purify people, do the purification first, then education comes next. So purification is extremely important from Islamic point of view, and that was the mission of the prophets. And when prophets were directed to purify, they were not told to just purify Muslims and mu'mins only. They were appointed to be the leaders and the guides of the whole humanity. So they were there to create purification amongst the human beings. And once they have been purified, of course, they will be ready and willing to accept an unbiased point of view, which will eventually guide them to the right path, which is the path of Allah and Iman and right path.
Absolutely.
So that is the process that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always wanted from Adam to Muhammad and until the last day of this world. All the leaders should aim for purification of themselves and others, and then educate and go further. Otherwise, if they start with education without purification, we will only have selfish human beings who would only take
Yes.
care of their personal interest and ignore the others and other values. They will not learn to coexist. Of course, there are red lines everywhere, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has educated us from Adam to Muhammad about those red lines that we should not trespass. And again, that will be part of purification when we are doing the purification process. Those red lines will be introduced and installed in the minds of our children and ourselves as well.
Absolutely. No, this is an amazing initiative that Brother Ali has taken upon himself alongside all the other work that you've done. This is something that is, I know you're very passionate about, and this is really you giving back so that, our community and the wider sort of like society can actually benefit. Because, at the end of the day, if we spread this goodness, then only the next generation as well as ourselves can actually, achieve in this world and the world after. And you are definitely doing that. And I love this whole idea. And if anybody who is watching watching who wants to learn more, there has been at the bottom of your screen where we've given information if you want to go in and actually sign the petition and actually encourage this, this idea of having, character education in your schools for your children and the future. This would be amazing if you were to actually participate right now. And, it takes a couple of minutes to just go in there and just put your name. And hopefully this will be something that will be introduced for the benefit of us all. So when it comes to the actual process, Brother Ali, are you working alongside people that is going to be beneficial, not just in our community, but do you have people like, to sort of set up this curriculum where they are maybe from outside faith groups, or is it at the very early stages now? Tell me, tell me the process, and what more do you require from all of us apart from signing this petition in order for it to actually get to the momentum it requires?
Sure. So Ofsted has introduced character education in their inspection from 2019, and that is a guidance to all schools to include character education, because what education system has been in the last 30-40 years, especially since globalization and since obviously economic liberalism, schools have been more concerned with preparing young children for the marketplace, so they can study all the liberal subjects and thrive in their expertise and professions and become doctors, engineers, scientists, and what have you. And but there is obviously in that a child is growing and not being too concerned about how one should live a life, how one's decisions impacts other. And obviously we can see in the condition of society right now, in the kind of a neoliberal society that has left a large part of humanity, displaced them somehow, left them left behind. But at the same time, it has brought numerous benefits in terms of like technology and medicine that has excelled to the point where, so we have seen both things. We have seen the positive of education and negative of education. So what we are trying to work with is, since Ofsted has included, there are a number of organizations who have produced curriculum and resources for character education, specifically on these values of generosity, compassion, gratitude, humility. The leading one is Jubilee Center in Birmingham, but there are many other who are recommended by Ofsted. So any school can, at their own discretion, get access to any resource they feel like, and then upon their own understanding of character, they can implement those, resources into the overall their school ethos and their school curriculum. But what we are trying to suggest and argue, that by giving schools discretion and by not making it compulsory, there is no one understanding of what human dignity should be understood as, and how every child should see the dignity of another human being. So there has to be a structured manner in which all schools, not on their personal discretion, but agree on a kind of a curriculum which really enhance a child's ability to respect other human beings. So this particular kind of resources are not developed yet, but there are many resources which overlaps with this idea. So as this picks up the momentum, we have until September to get about 10,000 signatures. We haven't taken, the momentum in some ways hasn't been built. We have a social campaign going on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, but there's about 300 organizations that we have reached out to, and the whole thing hasn't picked up its traction, where it can become more awareness is produced in the mainstream areas. So obviously, being from this community, I have been always hopeful that our own community would also support this petition, because this, humanity really is a profession. Humanity really is something that can only be ascertained through training, and it helps everyone. It dispels so many of the injustices, the problems and differences that we have. So I think this really is the salvation, and Islam has made it quite clear that only through this society can can achieve a better state. So I would very much like your viewers to please go on to, I think the control room can put the link underneath for the petition. Otherwise, the viewers can go on virtueethicsfoundation.com, virtueethicsfoundation.com, and on the landing page there is a link to the petition, to just sign the petition. It will literally take about 15-20 seconds at the most. So we are at the moment seeking and hoping that we can get enough signatures for it to go, of course, for the debate in Parliament, and then during this subsequent period, that is, inshallah, hopefully, if you know, inshallah, if we succeed, we will be taking a lot of resources and try to tweak it to make it more at the core, the focus on human dignity rather than a holistic character education, because all resources obviously are criticized because they might have a particular orientation. Some schools may want to have some religious kind of sources to be the very foundation of it. But living in a in a society where it's faith and it's non-faith, we just have to promote the values which all human beings share, before even just as a human beings. So I think that's where it becomes something that invites and appeals to all factions of society, all sections of society. And inshallah, if it does manage, I realistically, it will not happen immediately. I think it will go through phases, but civilization has been for thousands of years, and if this can give us hope for better humanity, than even spending 30, 40, 50 years in which it goes through the phases of improvement, as anything goes through the phases of improvement and sophistication. And of course, the children who will come out from the first batch of taking this education, they will make much better parents than perhaps I make for my child, because I have not gone through this education. So I don't spontaneously make the right choices, and they're often informed by my prejudices. But you can imagine the next generation will be much better, in a better position to teach their children. So we can see how slowly injustices can reduce, because all the injustices are purely because of our, these are not just economical gratifications. We have many ills in our souls, that we want power, we want fame, we want, you name it. And we are all, a victim of all these slaveries of our own selves. So this education helps to emancipate a child from that cycle.
Definitely.
So, yes,
No, I
from
agree with everything that you're saying. And I do urge the viewers to please do sign this petition, because it's only for the benefit. As I deal myself with a lot of, issues in the community, many of that is because of the children and the parenting. And this can actually eradicate a lot of the mental illnesses that we're going through right now, a lot of the bullying in school, a lot of the issues that are there with friendship groups, with relationships. So if you are willing to help this petition, it will actually help your household and your society and community as a whole. So this is definitely something that is in the woodworks. It's definitely something that needs more time, but more importantly, it needs your support. And please do stay tuned after the show, because we will be showing more clips about this and giving you more information in more detail as well. When it comes to our children, we do take pride in our homes, and obviously a lot of us, we do have that ability as parents, especially coming from faith. So with an initiative like this, it also allows children who may not have that home and lifestyle to also get that kind of information and that sort of moral and ethics behind. So this is why it's really important that we do support this, and we do take interest more in what's happening in our schools. And if we do have something like this in our school, then we're more likely to create better beings, better habits, better behavior. And this is what the struggle is, because even if you coming out of your home in a particular way, teaching in a particular way, then they're faced with another challenge, what's outside. So I just feel that before we get to the end of the show, as we only have a few minutes left, I want to thank you both for being here. But before I leave, I just want to have some final words from Syed firstly, and then Brother Ali. So with the a few minutes left, could Syed please close this discussion?
There is no doubt that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us to follow the footsteps of perfection. None of us can claim that we are infallible, and we need to improve. We, as parents and elders, whatever we have done uh, uh, was according to education and environment that we were brought in, and certainly our children will learn from our mistakes, and inshallah they will improve as well. But my advice is that always we and our children or future generation should remember the red lines and not trespass those red lines, and try to work together and improve and move towards perfection.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Said. We do have at least 5 minutes, so I'm going to give this time to you, Brother Ali, for you to sort of say what you feel towards the end and hopefully get some more viewers, get some more supporters, and give some final thoughts on this character education introduced in schools.
Thank you, Sister Fahima. I would like to start by thanking you for this opportunity and your sincerity and support for this. I am really grateful, deeply grateful. So please accept my gratitude, and
It's
to you,
my
Syed.
pleasure.
Um, I think obviously we are just touching one level of what we're discussing, but it has so many different layers above and beneath that of course are very important, and somehow they're related. I think that one, that this education, if you're looking at what it can do for our own community, I think it can develop moral autonomy within our community. I feel, and I have always felt throughout my last 10-15 years of activism in kind of searching for where we can go and what we can do as a community as well. And I think that moral autonomy is something that we've always deferred or transferred to our authorities, and we have not been able to make real decisions that can help our community to have a meaningful existence in the West. And of course, if we don't have something, we can't give that. You have to have something to be able to give it. So if we want to have Islam, for example, and we want to impact the broader societies with values, then it's those values that we need to absorb, not the identity. And I feel that we are mostly concerned with preserving our identity. And I think the reason for that is because we're not using moral autonomy to understand what our position should be and what not. I think this education will allow our own community to be able to entrench in the broader society and impact that society by synthesizing the very fabric of a society or a liberal democracy founded on Islamic principles. And I think this will open up great opportunities for our youngsters to really flourish and to really be a meaningful part of the society. And I think if we are successful in this, I think we will be in a great position to argue and put another case to the government to replace prevent with this education, because this education itself is prevent from all problems. And I think if we are successful, and I'm not saying it from a kind of a utilitarianist point of view that support this so that we can get that, but I just think it'll be a positive step towards making our own community exist much more meaningfully in the broader society, and it will allow and it will enable our youngsters to have the strength to be able to live in a pluralist, free society like this without feeling that their religion, their faith can be undermined. In fact, it will not only strengthen society, humanity. It will strengthen a faith of the child, because he understands the values upon which religion is founded. So I think that gap, our theoretical understanding of religion and our practical need for that religion, can be narrowed by this education and using more autonomy. So it's not something that will happen fast, but inshallah, this could be a start. And I think this would certainly be a remedy for many of our, human ills. And you are a psychologist, a professional psychologist. If I wish to be a professional psychologist, just by you telling me about psychology, I am not going to become a psychologist. I have to go through that training. I have to go through that lived experiences of what you have gone through to become a psychologist. Similarly, humanity needs to go through that training to become good human beings. In abstract, we have great ideas about what good life is, but when it comes to subjective self, we if we haven't trained, we will always be succumb to the weaknesses that are deeply entrenched within us, which is our selfishness, which is our self-interest and our prejudices, our biases, and all everybody has the same issue. It's not like a Muslim issue. Is all human beings suffer from these
Absolutely.
human conditions, and it helps everyone. And it should help everyone, because knowledge and truth is universal, is not specific to one particular community. So I think I would just like
Absolutely.
to say thank you very much, Sister Fahima. Again, I'm really grateful for your support.
No, thank you for coming on, and inshallah we will be in touch with regards to your journey throughout this process, and hopefully we'll have you back even further along with the actual process, and give you the support. And inshallah, I hope that whoever's watching also gives their support. Please stay tuned after the show, as we will be showing a clip with regards to more information. Thank you so much, Syed. Thank you so much, Brother Ali. Thank you so much for watching, dear viewers. Inshallah, we'll be back next week with another topic and episode, as well as another guest. I hope that we can hear more of your voices, as this is your show, and we will hopefully have new guests for current issues. And again, these shows are here bringing in guests with their own opinions and their thoughts, not necessarily representing our channel, but we have the space open for all of us to give all types of information and education. And I hope that I see you next week, inshallah, tuning in at the same time. Have a lovely evening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Society is facing many, many problems and challenges. We have issues of racism, Islamophobia, homophobia, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, knife crime, gun crime, and so many other ills affect our society. And in order for us to be able to tackle these, we need to introduce a form of education for our children that will equip them so that they can internalize the good values, ethical, moral values, and respect and fairness for all, seeing everyone as equals. We have PSHE, we have RSE, we have RE, and so many other subjects that are taught in our schools to our children to prepare them for life and for future. And the aim of all of these is to create a more harmonious, prosperous and peaceful society for all. But the lack of a specific methodology to teach character education, which will enable our children to instill within themselves qualities and values that will enhance their respect and their fairness, fair treatment of others, is missing. We therefore need our government and our education department to consider the introduction of character education under PSHE so that our children can internalize these values and rid themselves of all the ills that have devastated so many sections of our society. So we call on you to support the campaign, calling on our government to introduce the teaching of character education as a methodology to equip our children with knowledge and upbringing that will help them to become better citizens, respectful citizens, and create harmonious societies.